All right. So I'm on here to talk about what to do when everything feels like a chore, right? Even the fun stuff feels like a chore. And I was on a couple days ago and I talked about the 3 questions to ask yourself when everything feels like a chore, right? So that we gain a little bit more self awareness and reflection and we can take time to problem solve, right? That's basically what we're doing is problem solving why we're feeling the way we feel. So today, I wanted to touch on what to do about it, right? Like, I realize everything's feeling like a chore. Even the things that I normally enjoy doing feel like a chore. What now? Like, I'm recognizing that, I'm seeing that, I'm asking myself those questions. I'm saying, like, yeah, and yeah, right? I actually put a link in the description if you want to watch the video with the 3 questions. Feel free to do that. Otherwise, we're just going to jump into it. All right. And they do kind of go along with those questions, right? Because asking these questions help me clarify my answers. So, what to do when everything feels like a chore? Okay. And to summarize, for me, it was just like the normal things that are chores, right? Like dishes and laundry. Like I just had less motivation to get them done. But also the things that I actually enjoy doing or the things that I know are like good for me and make me feel good after they're done, right? Like maybe I don't like doing them at the time, like yoga, right? It's hard for me to get motivated to do it, but I know how it makes me feel after it's done, right? So, like my morning routine, I love because I love the peaceful productivity that comes after doing my morning routine, right? Normally, I like playing with my kids. Normally, I like watching TV with my husband, but for some reason, like even those things were feeling like a chore. So I asked myself those 3 questions after that were in the previous videos. And then here's kind of what I came up with. Okay. So, what to do when everything feels like a chore? The first one is to get a smaller plate, right? What I mean by that is for me, everything was feeling like a chore because one, there were a lot of stressors happening in my life at that time. And when that happens, that usually there's a lot of like to-dos that go along with that, right? And so there was all of these to-dos that were causing stress where I felt like I needed to get into the to-dos and it was kind of a cycle. So I think of it like this. So like think of like a family holiday or family celebration, right? And everyone brings a dish and you have this giant plate that you go around and you get all of these small helpings of all of these different things, but even taking a really small portion, there's so much food that by the time you get to your seat, your plate is like heaping full of food, right? And you're like, I'm never going to be able to eat all this, right? So it's kind of like that, like getting a smaller plate. So what I mean by that is we have this giant plate of all of these little to-dos. Some are bigger than others, right? Some are higher priorities than others. And so one thing that worked for me was to get a smaller plate. And the way I did that was recognizing, like, I know I'm not going to get all of these things done in one day. I'm just not. It's not a realistic expectation for me, right? So, instead of here's what kind of I used to do is I would just keep the same to-do list and I would be like, it's okay, I'm just going to get some done and I'm just going to carry it over to the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And I don't know if it's like this for you, but when I do that, my list gets longer, not shorter, because I cross one thing off and I add 2 things. And then then I have this giant list of things to do and I'm feeling overwhelmed and stuck and like I'm never going to get all this done, right? So what I've started doing is taking that list, whether you have written it down or even mentally, and saying like, okay, what are like the top 5 most important things? And I'm not going to try to do all of those in one day because they're usually the bigger things, right? Like we have bigger to-do lists, bigger chores, and then we have like little ones, right? Like to me, dishes is a little chore. It takes 20 minutes. It's a little chore. I do it every day. No big deal, right? But some other things that take maybe a little bit more mental power or maybe a little bit more like, I don't want to say confidence, but things that you just don't like doing as much, a little more intimidating maybe. Um, or like a lot more work. Like you just know it's a larger chore. Those things, and I take those and instead of just saying like, these are my top 5 things I have to get done, so I'm going to do all these first, right? And I do that. I'm learning to scatter. So something that I've tried that's been working for now is, okay, I have these 5 things. Instead of trying to do all these 5 things in one day, I'm going to take one thing and disperse it throughout the week. So one thing on Monday, one of the big things on Tuesday, one of the big things on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You could even do it every other day if you need to give yourself like time. Then my other 2 things that I put on my list as like a top 3 are smaller things. Okay. This triggers something in our brains, right? To like not stress about all the things. Because your brain says, no, you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to stress about that till Wednesday because that's a Wednesday to do. It is not a today to do. Okay, so that's the first thing. Like get a smaller plate, right? Distribute your things. It would almost be like that big Thanksgiving dinner or holiday dinner where it's like, instead of having this massive plate with all of these things, you get a smaller plate and you're like, okay, first I'm just going to get a little bit of salad. Okay, now I'm going to do just my, meat and vegetables. Okay, now I'm going to do my starch. Okay, now I'm going to get my dessert. Right? All right. The next thing I had to do, or that worked for me, was and this kind of goes with the smaller plate, but like get out of that never enough time. Why is there never enough time? Because I'm putting too many things on my plate, right? So instead, it was changing my mentality of like, I have plenty of time. I have all the time I need. I choose to have all the time I need, right? And then also being mindful of how long things were taking me. Like if I know something's going to be a couple hours, then I need to put less on my to-do plate or, designate my time. I'm going to work on this for 20 minutes and that's all I have, right? So just changing the way we're thinking about time. And the last one, kind of speeding up because I'm trying to keep it under 10 minutes for you guys. I realized that my plate was so full, right, that I was not leaving room for dessert, right? My plate was so full that I was not giving myself any time to just like chill, to have fun. Like it was so overwhelming with to-do stuff that I wasn't finding things in my day-to-day to take a break. And so for me, I had to tell myself, right? I had to give myself permission to do something that I wanted to do, not that I felt like I needed to do. There's a big difference. So for me, that was like choosing to do something that like was going to take my mind off everything. So like choosing to sit and read. And I think I also did some like cross stitching, right? I've been learning how to do that. So like just choosing an activity where I was like, this is just time for me to like zone out, right? Even if it's just sitting in quiet. And being purposeful about setting that into my schedule of like allowing myself downtime, right? Giving myself permission to say like, you can take an hour break. You can take a 20-minute break. You can take a break all day and just, I'm not even going to do anything, right? So that's kind of what I did when I was feeling like everything was a chore. And so that's why I wanted to share with you in case this helps you or you're in that mindset as well of like, "Ugh, just everything. Everything is so hard right now." Right? So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you guys have anything that you would like to add or anything like that. I'm always open to learning new things and strategies and things like that. All right, you guys have the best day. I will talk to you next time.